Okay, on the morning break of the first day of questioning of the undercover police officer Mark Jenner, the undercover officer who infiltrated a number of police accountability, anti-racist, anti-fascist groups. He's being questioned by David Barr, KC, the principal counsel for the inquiry. He's been asked so far about his relationship with Alison, the woman he deceived into a 5-year relationship whilst he was undercover, and also his targeting, the initial sort of beginnings of when he was in the back office before he went into the field, a lot of which was directed by the former undercover officer and by this point the SDS manager, Bob Lambert. I'm joined with Evelyn Lubbers from the Undercover Research Group. Evelyn, what do you made of what we've heard so far?
Well, it's fascinating to see alive an undercover we've heard so much about, and also like very exceptional, seen so many home videos of. So you kind of think you already know him, which you don't, of course, but still. The first impression is that he's answering questions. He doesn't say, I don't remember. I mean,
he has it quite a few times. I counted about 6 times.
But then he might really not remember things. You know, he doesn't have that strategy of just sitting there and saying, can't remember, can't recall, don't want to talk about it. He is kind of chatty, but is he saying a lot? Well, it's like very difficult to sort of pick out the small things that we didn't know before. And there's a few things that he's really disgusted of, like, you know, like that slipped through, like boring anarchist meetings, sleeping in squats with crusties, the word that
squalid.
They used for people who lived there. And Barr is really, you know, like, as usual, laying out his eggs to collect them later.
Yeah, he was asked about the racism a fair bit, and he claimed that he never heard any racism at any point from any special branch officer ever, apart from in reference to one undercover officer who was deployed against a group that used racism, and that officer repeating it. Now, this was after a line of questions about racism, and it felt like a very pointed answer that if this was going to continue, he was going to slip up and make a breach about an officer who related to the area that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah. And it's like so unbelievable that also in the light of what we've heard from other undercovers and the racist slurs, that nobody in the SDS or in the entire special branch, and then, you know, different from uniform, his time in uniform, he would hear racism all the time. So it's like as if people who move on to special branch, suddenly you lose all their racism. It's like so totally unbelievable.
One of the things he said, which I think really kind of sums it up, is he was asked if there was ever any anti-Irish racism, to which he went, no, not at all. I never heard any anti-Irish racism, apart from calling them all paddies and stuff like that.
That sums it all up, doesn't it? It's like, no, that is very, and it will be interesting, because he's like, oh yeah, he was almost offended by the idea that he would have had a mullet at the time.
Yeah, no, he said he was offended by that. He was asked quite a lot about sex. He was asked about the direction that he was given around sex. He was asked about the conversations that he had with Bob Lambert about it, the conversations he had with Andy Coles about it. He was quite candid about the conversations he had with Andy Coles about it. He talked about the Tradecraft Manual, which he knew that Andy Coles had written the section about sexual relationships. He said, well, it's all very well and good for... I was just about to say that. He said when he was going through the Tradecraft Manual, he said, well, it's very easy for Andy Coles to write these prescriptive things about sexual relationships whilst deployed undercover, but that's not the case when you actually are deployed. He said that with hindsight, it was a necessity for him to have sexual relationships when he was deployed undercover, and that it would be inevitable. He was asked a lot about drug use, and he said that would be inevitable as well. He said that it was inevitable to use cannabis, but it would be very easy for him to not take any other drugs. I don't think any of this makes sense, really. The idea that somehow that it's inevitable to take cannabis, but that it would be very easy for him to not take other drugs. Why is it inevitable with cannabis, but other drugs?
Well, inevitable was like a keyword this morning, specifically, also about the sexual relationships, and this made it like it's like, you know, like he was given the impression by Bob Lambert and by Andy Coles that such was inevitable, and we know that he's also said that he needed to have the relationship with Ellison, just to, you know, for his cover. And it's like inevitable. Sounds like, if he even said that himself, like if you're undercover for some time and advances by females, like Bart asked him to, did you really say that? Yes. To you know, deflect them. So at a certain point you just need to have a relationship. This is all sort of, it sounds like if you're in there for a longer period of time and you can't ignore the women in your environment anymore, it's better to have a relationship. This totally contradicts with the fact that he got involved with Ellison like within a few weeks of his deployment, and moved in with her like pretty soon, which wasn't like really, or maybe after a year, but still moving in with someone as an undercover officer with a wife and kids at home is quite a step. And it wasn't inevitable at all. He just did it because he enjoyed it.
I mean, there was a very direct question from Barr saying that it's quite a quite significant thing, quite a serious, significant thing to start having sexual relations with members of the public whilst deployed undercover. And he said, well, you could say that. The idea to him that it wasn't a significant thing. It was... Like, he was very defensive through this whole section. Obviously, we're going to come back to it in much more detail when we go back in, or at some point over the next few days.
He even said that in hindsight, it was necessary. So we all thought that we misheard them. Like usually they're trained to say, like, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. But he said in hindsight, it was necessary. So it's like he just doesn't stop, does he? It's like.
Yeah, there was it was a lot made of the fact that he was the first undercover officer to be deployed against an individual, a named individual, not a group or an organization. That individual was Mark Metcalf. We saw the targeting document which referred to that, the Mark Metcalf of the Hackney Community Defence Association. He was asked about his understanding of what that was about. He said that Mark Metcalf was considered a community activist who was at the hub of a lot of information from a lot of places. He said if he could get himself close to Mark Metcalf, then he would be able to report on, as he put it, everything. He would hoover up everything. Also within those targeting documents, there's another named individual, Norman Blair from London Class War, who, according to Mark Jenner, he never met. He said he wasn't told that it was targeted against him. He said he never met him. He said he only saw the name. He'd heard of the name, but he only saw the name in terms of targeting with the disclosure from the inquiry. So not only was the first person to be deployed against a named individual, he was deployed against two, one of which he was never told about. Now, this is all, I mean, I think this is particularly interesting when we can kind of put together what we heard from Graham Smith on Thursday, that it seemed very clear to Graham Smith, and I think he made a very strong case, that the actual deployment was against Hackney Community Defence Association. Now, Mark Jenner has said today that the reason why the Community Defence Association was so prominent in his targeting was because of a misunderstanding that came from Bob Lambert about that organisation, and he added that with his putting forward what he saw as Bob Lambert's misunderstanding about anarchism, as well as he said it was just a form of lifestyleism, that he didn't really come across much in the way of actual anarchist organising. He talked about the boring meetings that he had to have gone to about politics from genuine anarchist groups, and he said that there was the lifestyle anarchists and that this was a different thing. And he talked a lot about sort of Lambert's misunderstanding of the reality of the field. It all seems very convenient. He claims that he only knew about the police criminality at Stoke Newington Police Station and what the role of the Hackney Community Defence Association in supporting people who had legal cases with the police during his deployment, not beforehand. Again, just doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah, there was another thing that was very unbelievable, was that when the Macpherson report came out, he said it wasn't talked about. Like the Macpherson report concluded that the police was institutionally racist.
I mean, he went further than that. I mean, he said there were no conversations at any point that he ever remembers about anything to do with Stephen Lawrence. He claims he only ever heard the name Dwayne Brooks from the media. He even asked, was Dwayne Brooks with Stephen Lawrence when he died? Like with the most unbelievable quizzical look on his face as he asked. suggesting that he didn't even really know many details about this Stephen Lawrence, was it, character? Wholly unbelievable that he claimed that there was never any discussion when the Stephen Lawrence murder happened. He only heard about it in the media. He was in Special Branch at the time. He said they never spoke about it. He said the SDS never spoke about it. Like, somewhat similar to his comments about racism. It's just wholly
unbelievable.
And just not credible. Not credible in any way.
No.
It's only a short break. We should probably head back in. Anything else you want to say?
No, it's fine.
Okay. He will be questioned for at least 3 days. The chair has said that if we do go to a fourth day and there is a hearing on Thursday, it won't happen in the morning, just the afternoon, for a personal matter to do with him and his wife. But thanks for watching. See you at brunchtime. Cheers for now.